who run the world now? Who the sword of justice? Of Christ up of mercy.
Yo, Dr. Science here to learn you. I've been in the urban gardening game for 15 years now. The first year I did some planter boxes out of particle board, and they, well, crumbled into a pile after year two. There's been a number of iterations throughout the years, from cinder blocks straight into the ground, and in its current form, buckets to control watering with holes in the bottom to allow root growth out into the yard. There's plenty of real gardening channels out there that can give you deep soil analysis or optimal watering conditions. So what's a generative AI channel doing with a gardening show? Real simple. It's an authentic medium to offer the AI content. Let's listen for a few moments. That background music is all AI generated. I wrote the lyrics, messed with the inputs, sprinkled in a little magic, and, well, I kind of get to be a rapper. I hope you'll check out all our music videos on the channel and let them bring a smile to your face. Now, you're probably here for the gardening stuff, so let's talk about that. My general opinion on gardening is that you should cultivate skills in case of a coronal mass ejection like the Carrington event in September 1859. It would literally starve the world if it happened again today. Think of it as an electromagnetic pulse of a nuclear weapon, except on a global scale. It's quite likely modern electronics would fare very poorly against a disaster of that type. In essence, the electricity wouldn't turn on again during your lifetime. Your little garden might not provide enough food for you, but some of the techniques gained in the process were historically essential. Gardening has the following primary direct benefits for modern Americans. 1. It gets you moving around and away from the screen. Modern society is real sedentary. There were essentially no gyms in the 18th century because you had to constantly move around just to survive. 2. Vitamin D. I think a lot of people are chronically deficient, leading to poor moods and depression. You would need to spend hours outside shirtless to generate enough vitamin D, but any number is larger than 0. Sunlight's good for you. 3. I generally only use diatomaceous earth as a pesticide as it poses a very limited risk profile to humans and their pets. The processes that most grocery stores use on produce is brutal. Ozone, bleach, radiation, harsh processes to prevent rampant bacterial growth during transit. Essentially, you're getting FDA unregulated produce with local bacteria. I feel having a small portion of the local biomes, bacteria in your diet affects overall gut health, which again is critically important. Gardening has the following secondary indirect benefits for modern Americans. 1. Business or work interactions. Gives you a topic to talk about at work that only the most ardent haters can fight against. I like to talk about politics, philosophy, and religion, but a lot of people find those topics toxic. Saying something like, "Look at these cucumbers, I'm growing," and showing them a picture on your phone is normally benign. 2. Local gifts. Reciprocity is the grease that keeps society together. If you grow a bunch of vegetables and aren't going to eat them, you can give them to your neighbors. It seems that nearly everyone is in their own little bubble enjoying the screen, like you are now. Last year was a once-in-a-century snowstorm, and the number of neighborhood kids outside was amazing. 3. Dealing with reality. Gen Z and Alpha kids, having grown up attached to a screen, sometimes fail to understand reality. I've made my kids pick and shell peas on multiple occasions. You want onions in your ramen? Go pull up some from the backyard. Need time for soup? Go clip some. Once you've seen how hard it is to actually get food, you might appreciate what you're buying in the store. The buckets. After years of trial and error, I finally settled on using buckets as the primary method to control weeds in water. The buckets I get for free from work, otherwise they just get thrown away. I'm sure you can talk to any major retailer, especially around Valentine's and Mother's Day, when they get shippers full of them, and maybe somebody would be kind enough to save you a stack. I have 2 types of modifications I use. The majority of them have 5 1-inch holes drilled in them with a bore bit. This allows for the roots to grow out of the bucket once they reach the bottom. Some of the tubers, like potatoes, generally won't grow outside of the container, so this makes harvesting them much easier, as you can just dump the whole bucket into another container and quickly sift out the potatoes. The second modification is to leave the bottom intact and drill some holes about 1 inch away from the bottom. I use 3-inch peat starter pots for slow germinators, like peppers, and then an old 12-ounce solo cup turned upside down in the middle, and they're all fixed in place with a water reserve underneath. I normally keep replants at the start of each season, so if animals dig them up, bugs eat them, or something like a freak March snow happens, there are replacements. What to grow? Decide what you want to grow, and then I suggest looking up specific problems with those types. Tomatoes can get blossom rot, or zucchini can mold. Those problems can normally be prevented or fixed. Or you can do like me and fail repeatedly and finally learn. Normally I grow cucumbers, tomatoes, and peppers every season. I've attempted almost everything: watermelons, cantaloupes, strawberries, asparagus, carrots, zucchini, corn, sunflowers, you get the idea. Annoying things can happen, like your corn is about ready to harvest and the local squirrels eat every last ear. Or the cabbage is looking great and some type of worm decides to burrow into them. You harvest 16 heads of cabbage and end up only getting a few pounds of usable leaves. After all these years, I have mad respect for all the subsistence farmers throughout history who had these problems and went to bed wondering if they were going to starve this winter. My process is pretty refined after all these years. 1. Take last year's buckets, place them all in a pile, and let them lay fallow for 8 months. I could do 2 plantings each year, but 110-degree heat index is wretched. 2. I use chemical fertilizer because having a compost pile in an urban area isn't particularly polite. If we lived in the country or on several acres, I would have the rotating barrel type. 3. I use crystal urea 4800, Osmocote 12-12-12 or 16-14-16, lime, and wood ash. If you have a wood-burning fire pit or a charcoal grill, save the ash. 4. Last year's dirt gets dumped in a tote and broken apart to aerate the soil. 5. The buckets get filled halfway, and then I put a layer of the chemical mixture. This is to prevent burning of the roots. Sometimes, as the plants get bigger, you will see a slight wilting when the roots hit this layer, and then normally they go wild. Essentially, they find an unlimited nitrogen source, and then it's go time. 6. Since each bucket is getting a massive amount of fertilizer in a small area, I normally overcrowd my plants. This allows me to cull any slow or sickly plants without worrying about overall crop yield. This will reduce produce size, so be careful. 7. The layer on top of the bucket is often store-bought dirt. Historically, I use Miracle-Gro potting mix, the blue bag, to help control moisture, but with enough chemicals, it doesn't really matter much. 8. I stick to a survival of the fittest policy. Small, sickly, or slow-growing plants usually get culled mid-planting season. If not enough of them sprout, some of the losers do make it through. 9. I prefer to use seeds I saved from the previous year. This isn't always possible if you get an infestation or crop damage. When selecting store seeds, I recommend you pick heirloom varieties. This doesn't always mean they will produce viable seeds for next year, but it greatly increases your chances. 10. At the end of the season, vines, stalks, and leftover produce go in the fire pit for ash for the next year. 11. Depending on leaf color, you can see certain signs of plant distress like lack of nitrogen or water. If the season is almost over, I normally ignore it, but if you only have, say, one elevated planter, those signs should be examined. Again, there's lots of people out there that focus on specific types of plants. I just make mine listen to music.
Sensualities, my eyes be spying, but never buying counterfeit romance. And God bless high pants. The savage jungle full of animals, fragrant pheromones.
Harvest. Knowing about how long things will take makes it possible to stagger them so that all your produce matures at the same time. The other thing you can do is stagger their start times so that you get a wave of cucumbers, say early June, and then another wave late July. The critical part about harvest is saving the seeds for the next year. All of this year's cucumbers, tomatoes, early peas, and white egg peas are from last year. Some of the potatoes are from last year. The onions and green peppers are store-bought though. The process for saving seeds is super simple in the modern era, especially with air conditioning. You float the seeds in a jar of water for 24 hours. This generally separates them into ones that float and ones that sink. I normally keep both in separate sets as their germination rates vary depending on if they float or not. Indoors, in front of a fan with the AC on, and they will dry out quite nicely. If you live somewhere low humidity, the classic method of sun drying works, but if you're somewhere that's too humid, you'll get a wonderful pile of mold. Peas, I just like to leave on the vine or bush and then collect the pods once they've naturally sun-dried. In conclusion, that's 15 years of essentials packed into a short video with AI-generated music in the background. I hope that you all will take the time to check out our music videos and be thoroughly amused. Thanks. I hope you have a blessed day. Dr. Science on a mission.
But I really don't care if you already got age, just stick it anywhere. So I hit her up, find out where she wanna meet. I'm on house arrest, so I can't leave my street. But if you come on by, that would be alright. Start unwrapping what you packing in the hood tonight. Looked outside and I saw a limo pulling up. Couldn't believe my eyes, had I changed my look. She started getting out, saw her head to feet. Body reminded me of an Olympic athlete. Blinked my eyes twice so I could see her better. Started to have my doubts, cause I didn't vet her. Realized too late, I better return to center. She grabbed my thing and said, you can call me Caitlyn Jenner, we getting hey. Another fear request, and I think I might, but please got no dues tonight. Got a big Adam's apple with a manly height. profile, pick the crush that's out of sight. So it just might be due tonight. I met this girl on Facebook, and she sent a friend request. I scouted out her pictures and her chest was worth the quest. I dropped the line, and she picked up the phone. What she said, ooh, she's sexy as she all alone. So I closed my MacBook Air, fantasizing about that sexy long hair. Who needs a hat, son? I'm going bare. 20 minutes from now, we playing truth or dare. But little did I know what I find that night.